With so many JLs and JKs in the shop, it's very rare that we see a super nice TJ like this one. It's got 26,000 miles and we're doing a whole pile of really cool stuff. So a customer came to us and he found this 26,000 mile TJ Rubicon. It must have been in the vacation house or something like that. So he hopped on it and scored it, came to us and wanted a really cool build on a Jeep that was super capable, relatively low to the ground, and something that can be easily driven. So what we suggested was a MetalCloak suspension lift. Of course, we're gonna be coupling that with some strong axle shafts from RCV and Revolution. We're gonna be doing a re-gear and then a bunch of body parts from Nemesis. So I am pumped to see this thing all together. It's gonna be fitted with 37-inch tires and we're gonna keep you in the loop for the whole project. First thing I want to chat about is the suspension. Now, because this thing is gonna be relatively low in ride height, it's only gonna be like about 3.5 inches of lift, we're gonna use the MetalCloak short arm kit. This is the kit that we ordered. It is the double adjustable, fully aluminum, short arm 3.5 inch game changer kit. Now this kit comes with all of the control arms, so all 8. It also includes, of course, all the necessary components. There are adjustable bump stops, which I really like, which we'll fine tune. Adjustable track bars, track bar brackets, sway bar end links. There are dual rate springs, pretty neat, as well as their Rock Sport shocks. These springs are pretty cool. As you can tell, it's pretty obvious they have 2 rates. This one up here is like a softer rate. This one here is tighter. When this thing's on the ground, you'll see that these top layers will be basically collapsed on each other. So this is the spring that's gonna be doing most of the work. When it articulates a whole lot off-road, the spring separates, so you don't hear a lot of banging and clanging around when you're driving down the trail. As you can see, we've got most of the front suspension together. I don't want to say most, that's a little optimistic. Some, we've got control arm springs, shocks, the housing's drilled for the bump stops. So it's coming together pretty good. I think we'll get most of the other suspension done tomorrow, and then it'll be on to the re-gear. So we are excited to get that done. It's gonna be sweet. So the TJ Rubicons came with Dana 44 axles front and rear. This is really nice because it gives you bigger ring and pinion sets. It also gives you 30 spline axle shafts. Now what we're doing in this Jeep to beef up the axles in it are gonna be a bunch of upgrades. The first thing that we're doing right now is installing 488 gears. Now these gears, like I was saying, we're going to be installing these 488 gears from Revolution Gear and Axle. These things are really nice. We install them all the time, and the pattern that sets up on the gears is really, really good. Of course, we've got a great guy doing the setup. The next thing that we do is axle shafts. Right here in this box, we've got axle shafts for the rear and axle shafts for the front. Right here, these are the axle shafts for the rear. These are from Revolution Gear as well. These are 4140, they're made in the USA, and they're gonna add a lot of strength to the rear axle. They are still 30 spline because we are still using the OEM original factory air locker. Right here in this box are axle shafts from RCV Performance. Now these things are awesome. RCV did a great job in kind of reinventing the traditional axle shaft. As you'll see, this axle shaft does not have a universal joint. This works kind of like a CV axle. There's a bunch of balls inside there and a cage. The coolest part about this axle is that it's 2 times stronger than your factory axle shaft. So in a normal factory axle shaft, it's weakest when it's turned. So, tips, when you're out wheeling, don't crank the wheel all the way to the right and floor it. You're liable to break something. It's usually gonna be an axle shaft universal joint. These axles don't have universal joints, and that makes them inherently stronger and less likely to bind. So, I don't know if I mentioned, but they are 2 times stronger than the factory axles. Totally awesome. So once we get these assembled, these orange boots go on there. I'm sure you've seen them on the trail. They're a great upgrade. We've got to do a couple things to install them. They give you this template, and this is to actually make enough room in the steering knuckle so that the axle shaft doesn't hit inside there. So we hang that thing in there. Open that up there, Herm. And we make enough room inside there so that it doesn't hit. They also give us special bolts, which are a little smaller, which is kind of nice, so they don't have any chance of hitting. Once we get that all assembled back into the axles, we're gonna top them off with some beefy covers. These covers are made from Spicer. They're in an awesome hammered powder coat. They've got, of course, different fill levels and a drain, which is pretty slick. So it makes changing your differential oil much easier. One thing that's important to talk about when talking about re-gears is new gear break-in. It's really important after you drive your Jeep for 500 miles that you change the oil. This gets out all the particles that are floating around the oil, like machining, I don't know, pieces and that kind of stuff, drained out and fresh oil in it. So we're working on diffs now. Once we get that kind of buttoned up, we're gonna get some awesome pieces from Nemesis on it and get this thing on the ground. It's gonna look killer with 37s, and I can't wait to show it to you, as well as the rest of the process. So we've got our TJ Rubicon project basically wrapped up. The customer's gonna do a few things once he gets it back, like maybe a different bumper and winch and that kind of stuff. We got perfect alignment specs. We cycled the suspension right to get the bump stop set. So this is what a TJ with 3.5 inches of lift and 37 looks like. I think it turned out awesome. Of course, let us know what you think in the comment section. Be sure to subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and watch our stories. Thanks for following along. We enjoyed having you.